Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about tactical marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
I don't know. He's got that new plastic fancy model, hasn't he?
Yeah, which is a pretty cool model, to be fair.
It's a very cool model. I've got the original metal one somewhere. Right, anyway, important things. Have we actually started recording?
We're good. Greetings and welcome to the Three Grots podcast.
A Grotty special, in fact.
This kind of bollocks this time. Have we got something on screen where we're going to write stuff and it'll be visible to people as we write a night's list as we go along, or 2 or 3, or however many we end up writing?
Yes, we can.
That's probably worth it. Right, important things first, though. I've got some beer. So I went for a day trip today, and I took my mum and my wife and my infant son to IKEA. So I've got IKEA beer.
IKEA beer.
I've got IKEA beer.
Okay.
It's called Old Mork.
Have you had it before, or is this just new to you?
I just saw that they sold beer and thought, I'm going to buy IKEA beer.
Okay.
Surely it is not made by IKEA.
I don't know, it says it is.
Because if it was, you'd have to be putting it together for a half hour before you go to drink it.
Produced in Sweden for IKEA.
Okay.
That's not very funny, John. Sorry.
That wasn't good, okay.
No.
I never said that I had good jokes.
Just stick to your iron brew, mate. It'll be fine.
This is why I like scripting episodes.
Is it a cold IKEA beer?
It is a cold IKEA beer.
A warm IKEA beer.
It's a cold IKEA beer. It's a dark lager beer, apparently. But I just like the fact it's called Old Mork.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay, fair enough. All right, I'll pour myself some whiskey and Coke. Because why not? If you lot are drinking, well, John's not drinking.
I'm not really drinking school nights.
Iron brew. When's the last time you drunk was on the New Year's stream?
I did drink at a friend's birthday party not that long, too long ago. But yeah, I'm not a big drinker anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I did? I drunk when Scotland beat Norway. Yes, that was a big night. Serious night. I know it was a big night because I spent £17 on a pack of cigarettes to smoke one cigarette.
Jeez.
That's a lot of money. How can people afford to smoke?
I don't know.
Right. So important things here. Yeah. This is a lager, which means it's basically a soft drink. But actually, as soft drinks go, it's quite nice. You know what? That's the best lager I've had in some time.
Okay.
It's got some flavour. It's a little bit hoppy.
So what are we talking about this week? Nights.
Did you just buy the one IKEA beer, or did you buy like a pack of 6 or something?
I bought one for Kata as well.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about writing nights lists. A few weeks ago, we did writing Blood Angels lists live on stream, just to go through what we think about when we're writing the list, what we consider, what we think is good, and how it all goes together and why. Yeah. Are we going to do that for Imperial Nights tonight?
And the reason it's not live, like the Blood Angels one, is because
John's on holiday.
Yeah, Blood Angels Commander will be on holiday. So this is sort of live. We haven't planned it. We haven't researched it. We're just looking at the stuff and whatnot, and we're going to put a list together live.
Yeah. Like a slacker with a family who wants to look after them and go away and not work 7 days a week doing his YouTube channel, slaving for you, the audience. He slaves for you. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you. And
look at this ridiculous mouse that I'm using.
I say slave.
Oh my goodness.
He just works out statistics, puts them in a PowerPoint, and then talks for half an hour.
You wouldn't think it'd be that big a deal, except that it hasn't got a mouse scroll wheel. And that's really quite annoying.
I was going to say, is that one of the mouses where it actually has a ball that you have to
plural
clean?
Of mouses is mice.
It's actually the one that you get with the Amiga 500.
Yeah.
But it's a modified one. It's a modern recreation. So actually, it looks like the one. It's got the 2 buttons as the old tank mouse. But it's got a sensor at the bottom.
Okay, cool.
All right.
And it's USB rather than It used to be serial, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't even PS2. It was the generation before that where, yeah, you're right. It was serial cables.
Serial cables. Because I've always wanted an Amiga.
Right.
Like when I was a kid, I wanted an Amiga because you saw them in magazines and stuff. Okay. And I had like an Intel 286, which is a shit computer. It couldn't even run Windows. It would just run on like DOS. I had to type everything. And I remember reading in magazines with my 286 at home just about playing Wolfenstein, but you could only move in 8 directions because you couldn't do smooth scrolling because it was that bad. And looking at pictures of Amigas, and now I'm an adult and I still haven't got an Amiga, but I have got this like.
It's a mini Amiga. It looks cool, to be fair.
I've got the mini Amiga,
yeah.
Which I'm not going to say anything about because I may be involved in selling some of those to do with my work and employment. So I probably shouldn't express an opinion.
I can express an opinion. It's wicked. It's got the wrong games on it, but it's wicked, and it's got a way of very easily. Unlike some of them, you've got crack and all this sort of crap, like the bloody PlayStation one, which is a right pain in the arse. This one's very easy. It's designed from the ground up to sideload your own games on.
I will say the only one of those retro machines I bought was the SNES one when that came out.
I want the Amiga one too. The game that I want to play though is Speedball 2. Do you ever play that?
Yeah, Speedball 2 is wicked.
I love Speedball 2. They've never made a good remaster of it. It's such a good game.
The one I haven't got but wanted
was an indie version of it on Steam or something that they've made.
Sure they tried to remake it a couple of times, but they just
it's not as good as the original.
They just clone the original. It's the same as some people might like those new Transformers movies. I'm waiting for a clone of like the 1986 Transformers movie.
Yeah.
That was the definitive Transformers movie.
King.
You'll be waiting for a while.
The one I missed of these little mini consoles that I wanted was the TurboGrafx 16 one. And it was an Amazon exclusive. It was £100 and I couldn't afford it when it came out. And now they've gone off, and I'm quite disappointed. But I've got most of them. I've got both the Nintendo ones. I've got both Sega Mega Drive ones. I've got the Commodore. I've got the Amiga.
Wow.
Very cool.
What other ones have I got? I've got the PlayStation 1.
You're really making me want this Amiga one. Okay,
it's wicked.
Let's get
on sale at the moment as well. It was on sale.
I was going to say a couple of things about Knights before we.
Okay, what do you want to say about Knights?
They've been nerfed.
Got Speedball 2 on it.
I know it's got Speedball 2 on it. I want it. Yes, taunt me with it. I'll come to your house and steal it.
Comes with this wicked mouse.
I don't want the mouse. Knights. How do we want to put this? They still are very powerful because they get the towering rule.
Yeah.
And towering is kind of obnoxious. I don't think I've got the rule for towering in front of me. Do we need to clarify what towering is, or are we just going to go straight into
I think
Knights?
It wouldn't hurt to clarify what towering
clarifying
is.
what towering is simple. It means that something with towering does not get affected by the obscuring rule thing that's part of the ruins terrain keyword, which means that you can't see through them to be shot at or to shoot. If you're towering, you can see through ruins, assuming you can draw an actual line of sight through them and they're not physically blocked up with solid walls.
It's very strong towering, if you ask me.
But it does work both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it works both ways. You can shot people both ways. You're absolutely right. And they've been nerfed a couple of ways.
Yeah, the points went up, and I do have the new points cost
and
on
it was
screen.
not by a small amount either. We're talking 40, 50, 60 points.
It's a good chunk.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 15 to 20% per Knights, but Armigers dodged the nerf.
That's because they don't have towering.
You think it was purely because of the towering? Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
totally.
And not all of them got it that should have got it. So one I'll call out for that is the Knight Lancer. Now, the Knight Lancer went up by about 60-odd points, but doesn't have any guns.
It has one gun, but it's a very short-range gun.
It's a very short-range and not very powerful gun.
The points increase when arguably it has a much longer-range gun than the Lancer does, with its little rocket launcher pod on top.
So the Lancer's just got... Its Lance has a lasery mode, which is not very powerful and not very good.
Although, to be fair... Arguably, the Lancer's fucking powerful anyway. So
the Lancer needed a points increase, but it didn't need 60-odd points of a points increase.
Yeah,
that's taken it from very strong to really quite overcosted now.
Don't know. There's still room for one or two, maybe.
I was going to say, are Knights still up at like a 60% win rate? Are they?
They've dropped off the general chatter for being big bogeyman of the meta at the moment. That's all Eldar and Gene Stealer cults these days. I say these days. It's changing week by fucking week.
Yeah. They're in a funny position. They're a little bit like Custodes at the moment, which means that they're winning games, but they're not winning tournaments.
Mhm.
Because if you've got an army that can't deal with them, then you're absolutely buggered and you're going to be completely mashed. But if you've got an army that they can't deal with, they can't deal with it. It's like they're a hard skew at the moment.
The term used
played
for
with
this is a gatekeeper list. If you can deal with it, great. If you can't,
then you're in trouble. So, and there's only custodes at the moment. So this, I didn't play with him. One of the guys in my group was playing with him the other day, and he was complaining that he actually very nearly got tabled by a pretty crap Space Marine list, and it was because the guy was running fairly well, but he only had 3 or 4 models, and he oath a moment, killed that model. Next turn, oath a moment, killed that model. And because he hadn't built a particularly meta list, he had a couple of Knight Lancers in it. He really couldn't do a lot about it.
Okay.
Couldn't get in there to melee them. And they were just getting picked off at sort of 500 points a turn. And they weren't doing enough. So at the moment, one of the problems with the Knights seem to be there's a very meta way of playing them, which is lots of armigers or lots of things with lots of guns that can use the towering rule well. And if you start running around with lots of gallants or lancers or the other Forge World ones, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble because they're really struggling.
They don't leverage the strengths of what make knights really powerful at the moment. No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they get all the weaknesses.
Emphasize that for playing when you play against knights, you see that big giant 500-point knight and you think that's the problem here. That actually, although it is the problem in that will do the most killing, what the problem you're going to have is if I think a knight list should have like at least 6 armigers in it or something, because the armigers will score the points. You know, they move fast, they have OC 8, they don't really degrade on the OC, they're toughness 10, they're all over the board. You know, they just score you the points.
Yeah. So the armigers are superb at the moment.
Yes,
they are really very, very good.
They, you know, like 5 Space Marines, for example, feel like they can never hold an objective against a single armiger. You know, like even basically 10, a squad of 10 Marines would struggle into an armiger.
I'm not sure about the Moirax personally. I'm not sold on that one.
No, the Moirax is a little bit overcosted, I think, for its, but it's paying the Forge World tax, really.
Yeah, I think just the Helverns and the Warglavies are the way that you win.
Yeah.
You win games with knights.
They're not outrageously killy, but combine them with the right knight buffs, because of course they get their bondsman buffs.
Yes.
So they can be very, very strong, and more importantly, they can buff up their big daddy as well.
And that's the way to do it.
So that's the way to do it.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think if you take 3 big knights, you probably fall into that trap that you said, Tony, just a second ago, where like you could actually get picked off 1 big knight a turn and lose the game. So I think the maximum you can take is 2 big knights, and then pad out the list with Helverns and Warglavies. And I think that's a very
and because they're battle line, you can take up to 6 of each individual armiger.
And I think
for all 3 types of them have the battle line keyword.
It's a very simple list. You know, like we look at some of these other armies where it's so difficult to make the lists. It's quite simple here for knights, I feel like.
Yeah, they don't have an awful lot of choice. It's good.
Cool.
The other nerf is, or well, not nerf. It's classed as a clarification, but it is a nerf compared to somehow people were playing it. The Lay Low the Tyrant Oath ability now says reroll a single hit roll of 1 and a single wound of 1 each time you're selected to shoot or fight. Previously, that was being read by a number of people as reroll all your hits of 1 and all your wounds rolls of 1.
Yeah, that was giving knights so much reliability. I mean, that contributed to their like 60% win rate for sure.
So,
cool. Okay.
Who wants to start then?
To be fair, I don't know why that needed clarifying, because I've got the original release version. This is not a tweaked version of the PDF or something. This is when it come out, I downloaded it.
The reason why
each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1.
If you de-emphasize the word A, it could be reroll a hit roll of 1 or reroll a wound roll of 1. Plus, there are also instances where in the same set of indices, the Eldar bonus for being Eldar specifically said reroll a single hit roll of 1 and a single wound roll of 1. Therefore, because the wording being used was different, the argument was that it justified the fact that you could reroll a wound roll of 1. If you rolled a 1, reroll it. If you rolled a yeah. So
I still think that people
it was clearly
push
OP.
it a little bit.
It was
I think
clearly
people were pushing
OP.
that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever played it like that, to be honest.
Miles played it against me on stream. That sucker.
Yep. Do you think you would have won if not for those
No,
pesky kids?
no, not a chance. I thought it was obnoxious how much damage the knights did with full rerolls to hit and wound, though. Because I said to them, that's getting changed. Because that's
It's not full
obnoxious.
rerolls. Full reroll once, but no. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, most of their guns are really high strength. Most of their ballistic skill is really good. So it felt like too many rerolls, basically.
Yeah,
I think it's much better now. It's also important to note the knights all get a 6-up feel no pain, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
And but if they become honoured, then it becomes a 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah. When you
So-
become
Which is
honoured
really
if you kill the
powerful.
warlord, or if you control one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yep.
The second one is not likely, but if it is, then you're probably winning anyway. It's worth noting that of all the missions and setups and whatnot in the Leviathan mission deck, there is only ever one at most in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yes.
And the other one is killing your enemy warlord, which is going to be a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Realistically, one way or the other.
Especially if you're bringing a shooting knight and you've got towering.
Well, you don't even have to do that, frankly. You could just bring a Vindicare.
Potentially.
True. I have actually seen a few knights lists that are just bringing the Vindicator Assassin to sit in the backfield, be unshootable, and snipe enemy characters. Because I think it can be quite difficult, I suppose, with the knights, because it's not like the olden days where you could cut a Meltagun and get 10 points back or something like that, right? Like, you're just stuck with, like, hey, I might have 100 points left at the end of the list. That doesn't actually fit any
Put
knights.
in an assassin. Put in an assassin and an exaction squad. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. I guess...
All of their enhancements are great.
Do you want to cover the enhancements very quickly, then? Yes, no? Any standout one that you want to talk about?
I'm not bothered about Revered Knight. Mysterious Guardian is crazy good.
It's hilarious. I'm not sure how
what the fuck they were thinking.
good it is because of the way it's on the big knights and stuff. And you can't put it on the forge roll big one because that would be even more funny.
Because it doesn't have the character keyword.
Yeah,
that means
so
you can give an enhancement to him.
But
Mythic
it's one
Hero,
of those funny ones because you can't. It looks great and it should be great, but the problem with the size of the bases for the knights makes it actually quite hard to utilize in a way that gets the most out of it. You're like, I'm going to fade over. Oh, I can't fit. I'm going to fade. Oh, I can't fit. I'm back in my own deployment zone.
Fair enough.
It's very easy to screen out, but when it comes through, it's just fantastic. Like this big old Knight Valiant with a flamethrower turns up 9 inches away from you.
Yeah,
is hilarious.
Mythic Hero, I would consider close to an auto take. Banner of Macarius, I'd like to take more because it looks really good, but at the same time, I can probably afford to have a unit sitting on the backfield in terms of like a Vindicare or something. And Unyielding Paragon is also just crazy good.
Absolutely. The Mythic Hero, if you're bringing big knights and armigers, I would say is an auto take. You need it.
Yeah, the Unyielding Paragon on a knight that has like the -1 damage bondsman ability is insanely good as well. I found I got tar pitted by a knight. I think I put 10 Oath of Moment Chainfist Terminators into the knight and did like 10 wounds to it or something. It was literally disgusting because he was able to ignore 1 AP, so I only had AP 1, and he was able to ignore 1 from the Chainfist, so only did damage 1, and yeah, it was horrific. I won't make that mistake again.
No, cool.
Cool. Okay, so
is it worth talking over some of the more interesting knight picks first before we try?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think let's talk about. Just get straight on it because the more interesting ones will come out as we build a list, right?
Go on, then. You're the boss.
I was going to say you give us your most interesting knight pick.
Oh, I'm going first, am I? Okay, cool. Well, the way I'd start building a knight list is I would start most lists with trying to work out if there's anything I want to base the entire list around in terms of units or enhancements or strategies or other stuff like that, which necessitates taking a particular model. I also want to think about what I'm going to look at holding my backfield objective, because every game has a backfield objective in one way or another, or a closely backfield objective that you want to hold. and you're going to want to have something to hold it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's almost certainly just going to be a Vindicare Assassin, because...
Oh, that's a cop-out. We're looking
Why?
at your most exciting knight.
Yeah. No, we're also talking about building a knight's list and how to make it good and what to take. So
Okay, I see a smirk from Tony there. He thinks it's a cop-out as well.
It's an absolute cop out. We're gonna build a knights list. I'm gonna start off by not putting any knights in it.
Okay, well, you want me to go first?
Absolute cop out. Absolute cop out.
I kind of want to take a Lancer because I think the ability to use
tank shot
for free every turn is insanely good. So that's a good 600 points gone right then and there.
Hold on, do I need to download another file to have the Lancer rules? Are they not in this
the
file?
Forge World one rather than the
Lovely. Okay,
the other
let me
one.
do that on another screen for 1 second.
All right. Okay. Cool.
God.
Okay, we'll put that on there.
While you're doing that, do you want to scroll to Canis Rex and have a look at him in the regular Knights Codex? Because he's near the. Yeah,
I think Rex is pretty. I liked him last edition. I think he's pretty cool.
I would not take Rex as a free blade, because you don't get the benefit of his legendary free blade ability in that you don't get to use any stratagems on him, because you lose all access to stratagems if he's a free blade in somebody else's army.
You can't even tank shock or something if he's a free blade?
No, you can.
If you put him in a Blood Angel's army, you can tank.
I thought you can use the core stratagems. You can't use their.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, you couldn't rotate Iron Shields then. Okay, but you could tank shot with him.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
You could interrupt with him.
You could 6-inch heroic intervene with him for free.
Yeah, which is.
I mean, when you start talking that way, that doesn't sound so bad at all, does it?
Okay, no, I get that. That's fine. That makes sense. He's really powerful. His weapons are incredibly flexible. He hits, in theory, more times than he shoots because of the fact all of his weapons have got sustained hits 1, and he crits on a 5+ regardless. So he's always going to do more hits than he rolls dice, unless you roll really, really badly. The fact he can do the free stratagem every turn is really, really useful. If you make him your warlord and he dies, then Sir Hector gets out. He can't be shot because he's got lone operative, and you just run him off somewhere with OC1 sitting on objective and hide him for the rest of the game and hope he doesn't get twatted. So I think Canis Rex is probably a solid choice to base your list around. So looking at that, what are we on points wise with a Vindicare, Canis Rex, and a Lancer?
I was going to say
pretty much there.
That's going to be what, about 1,100,000 points?
Sorry, am I being silly? What weapons does Canis Rex have?
So he has Freedom's Hand is his power fist.
Yes. Where does it say this? Oh yeah, it's on the one card. It's not on the second sheet. All right, I'm being dumb. So he has the Laz Impulsor.
Yeah, because the second sheet is the little bod.
There's the guy.
When he dies, yeah.
A multi-laser and Freedom's Hand.
Yep.
Freedom's Hand is strength 20. Holy God.
Because it's a power fist. Well, it's a Knight Titan power fist.
With sustained.
And since the highest toughness anything in the game has that you're going to be facing is toughness 13, I believe, strength 20 is going to be rolling 22 dice on tank shock, so you're going to be hitting your 6 mortal wounds off the back of that.
Yep, you'll guarantee the 6 mortal wounds. So 6 mortal wounds on the charge, potentially 45 damage from his fist. That's absurd.
Yeah, or 10 attacks doing 3 damage each. He'll sweep a whole load of stuff. And each one doing sustained hits 1.
And Canis Rex is how many points?
I don't know. What does that say?
I can't see him.
490.
490? Nice. Seems pretty good.
Yep.
Toughness
He's flexible. He'll punch things. He'll shoot things. He'll be pretty tasty and powerful.
Yeah.
He's a very solid single model. The only thing he doesn't have is he doesn't have any synergies with anything else. So he can just do what he does on his own and not have to rely on any other models one way or the other. You don't have to worry about bondsmaning him next to anyone. He's very self-contained for what he is and does.
Yeah, which would make him a good option to put into like a free blade list. Does that diminish his value inside of a knight's list?
Well, he's an epic hero, so you can't take enhancements on him anyway. You've pointed out several core stratagems that you could use so that his legendary free blade ability would be useful as a free blade. So yeah.
You might actually not be able to take him in another detachment, because I think Epic Hero is the one that says you're only allowed Epic Heroes from one keyword, right? I don't think the Knight thing would break that. I mean, that's a separate point, but it'd be worth thinking about, right?
All right, let's look at it. I mean, it's not relevant to building an Imperial Knights list right here and now, but...
No. Is he worth taking for Knights, I guess is the question. Tony, would you take him?
I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'm sitting there thinking in my head, he's great, right? He's got some cool rules. He's got some interesting weapons. His ranged output's not bad. His melee output is very good. But we talked at the beginning of this how important it is to bring all your armigers around.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring your armigers, you really want to be using your bondsman abilities to get the most out of them. Because without them, they're not bad, but they really do benefit a lot from that. So if you're only going to bring a couple of knights, big ones, for example, the only 2 knights we picked at the moment, neither of which have an awful lot of synergy elsewhere. So we've got the Knight Lancer. What was his benefit to bondsman ability?
I'll bring it up.
Advance and charge. It's not bad, is it? I almost feel like we're starting to build a list that is like an anti-knight meta list, because what we're looking at, maybe the next thing to start thinking about bringing would be a gallant and with the upgrade and a couple of armigers.
This is a simple list, ultimately. This is, you've got a Lancer whose job is to charge forward and tank shot stuff and kill it.
Yeah.
And you've
got
Canis
the Hector,
Rex,
whose job is to charge forward
tank
and
stuff, mix it up and tank shot stuff and kill them dead. Yeah, absolutely. You've got a unit to sit in the backfield. So, frankly, I'll fill up the rest probably with armigers.
But you can't buff the armigers because you've got nothing to buff them, really.
So?
And is that the...
Yeah, okay, just
from an army
on the one thing, it's a bad thing.
One second. Page 55.
Yeah.
Sorry for my green screen. It does say at the bottom, your arm... no unit can have more than one enhancement, and each enhancement included in your army must be unique. Then it says, epic heroes cannot be given any enhancements. Your army cannot contain the same epic hero more than once.
Okay.
I thought it said that epic heroes had to be unique, but I guess no. So you could...
Well, that is what it's... That's kind of what it means, right?
I meant like you couldn't take a Blood Angels epic hero and a Knight Lancer epic hero, but maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly.
Oh God, you didn't fall prey to that as well. Did you think that you could only take one epic hero in your army, period?
No, I didn't think that. I just thought that when you picked an epic, like you couldn't take... I thought there was a caveat rule on Seth that said if you take Seth, you can't take any of the Blood Angels epic heroes.
Well, that's the difference, because Seth is a Flesh Terror as opposed to a Blood Angel. You're mixing chapters. This is part of a different rule, which is the Agents of the Imperium Freeblade rule, which is at the start of the Imperial Knights Codex.
I think you're right. I just wanted to check. So you could take... I think Canis Rex is a more... I think Tony's right. Like, I think he's more for taking with another army, but at the same time getting that free tank shock, that free 6 mortal wounds every time he charges, and just having 2 knights charge forward. So what does the Lancer give you then?
So he's got advance and charge.
But he only gets advance and charge when he uses Bondsman on a armiger, of course.
Which is easy enough. And he can do tank shock for 0 CP. So this is what you're saying. So you've got 2 knights, both doing tank shock, 6 mortal wounds, and then the Lancer is the same, basically strength 20 minus 3, 8 damage this time instead of 9. I don't suppose that's a big deal. Toughness 12, 4 up, invulnerable save again.
And you obviously want to be putting a Armiger Warglaive paired up with the Lancer so that it can charge forward with it and get the benefit of the advance and charge.
Oh, and for some reason, it actually is the Lance Skewer, so it's strength 20 with +1 to wound and lethal hits. Holy moly. Yeah. Okay. So that's killing anything.
Shit's dying. Yeah, absolutely.
Where it gets really quite nice is that Lance works on his sweep profile.
Oh, so I hadn't even thought of that, yeah.
So that means, all right, it's only strength 10, but unless you're smacking things that are big armory things, you're getting 10 attacks with Lance.
Why? What?
Oh,
it's
literally
right next to the strike keyword.
Oh, I'm talking bollocks. Ignore me. Sorry, I'm talking absolute rubbish,
Okay. All right, I mean, you just had 1 beer, right? Just to check.
I'm halfway through it. It's been a long old day.
It's that IKEA beer, man. There's something in that.
Are we writing this list down somewhere, or do I need to start writing it down?
Yeah, no, I'll write it down. So what have we got? I wrote down beer in the Google Doc, or the.
Oh, okay,
I mean, that's
brilliant. Can the audience see whatever you write
They,
down?
they
'Cause I
can
can't
see
it.
beer, yeah. I mean, so you want a Night Lancer, and you want Canis Rex. Is that what you want?
Vindicare, a Night Lancer, and a Canis Rex.
Okay. I don't know how many points a Vindicare Assassin is. Do you know?
That's right. I think it's like 80 points off the top of my head.
Pretty sure it's 80 points, yeah.
All right, we'll say 80.
All right,
And-
so the Vindicare is 80
Lance-
points.
Lancer is 495. Canis Rex is 490.
Yep. We
I think
also
that-
want... the next one's going to be a Armiger Warglaive.
Yeah, how many of them are we getting?
Just the one to begin with, because that goes next to the Night Lancer and uses its bondsman ability and goes forward.
The IE to spell that? Or is it just...
War, Glaive.
Okay, I can't spell. Cool.
How many points does that leave us?
About 790, 780 maybe?
Yeah, so we've spent 1125 points so far.
So 1125. So it's about
No,
800,
12 I think it was-
870 then.
No, we've got about 790. Oh, I'll just add it up.
I've just
We
added it up.
You've added it up wrong. Are you sure you've just had one beer?
Have you added the Warglaive as well? Have you added the Vindicare as well?
12
Oh, I haven't added the Vindicator. That's what I'm missing. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm using the app. I'm not doing anything fancy.
Okay, cool.
So stick the Vindicator in there as well. Where is he? There he is.
There's a section at the bottom for allies, I think, or something.
Yeah, he's in there. Yeah, allied unit data sheets. Come here, Vindicator Assassin. Where are you hiding? He's 80 points. So we've spent 1205.
Okay. So that's 795 left, right?
Yeah.
Do you want any Helverins? Because they're kind of the backbone, aren't they?
So that leaves room for 5 more armigers, basically.
Just want
So,
both armigers
do
or
we
140.
Do we want Helverins, or do we want to go into Warglaives, or do we want to skew one or the other? Do we want to have a bit of a balance with the list at the moment?
I think you've got
currently
so
we've
much melee coming out of those two.
We've got we got one shooty death thing. No, we got one backfield objective holder. We should probably have a Helverin, at least one, to.
I think you're going to need 2 Warglaives, and I'll tell you the reasoning, because if I'm playing against this list and I know that the Lancer gets advanced in charge if he gives his bondsman ability to the Warglaive, then I'm going to kill the Warglaive. So you need 2 of them, because I'm going to shoot the one to stop you getting your advance in charge. Because advance in charge on how far do these knights move? These big ones?
Well, that one moves 12. I want to say
14 inches on the Lancer.
No,
Holy
it's 14 inches on the Lancer, yeah.
Oh, it's because
He's
it's
a fat boy.
Cerastus build rather than the Questress build. Yeah, that's fair.
So I think you need a second one of these, because otherwise I'm just
Okay.
going to
Well,
try
let's just like generalize it out for the moment and give it a total of 3 Warglaives and 3 Helverins,
Okay.
and find out where that leaves us.
Alright, so I have to add that up. So that'd be 280 plus 145 times 3. No, that's not right.
So we're at
you-
1920.
Yeah.
We've got 80 points left.
Okay. So the question there, I
Mhm.
think, is do I want to swap out one of the Warglaives for another Helverin, just to have a little bit more shooting? Then again, well,
like
we got some big chunky stuff charging forward as it is.
Can I tell you what I like about the Warglaive?
You may.
Its thermal spear is kept to 24 inches that all other multi-melt is lost.
Yeah.
Its strength 12, which is way better than all the other meltas. And its melta 4. Like, on half range, it's insane for damage. Like, I average 7 damage on half range. I've played these guys to GT before, and I really like their melee weapons as well.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I still prefer. I preferred it in 9th, and I prefer it in 10th as well. I prefer the Warglaive to the Helverin.
Why?
I like the fact that you can't. I know it's not quite the same now with the tying things up, but you can't really. You don't really want to be in melee with a Warglaive, and you don't really want to get shot at by a Warglaive. There's no good place to be. Whereas with the Helverin, getting into melee and that, and forcing him to shoot a little bit or take a penalty to shoot out and things like that. I just think that I like the fact that the Warglaive is just that bit more versatile.
All right, so let's take it the other direction. What happens if we drop the 3 Helverins and make it a total of 6 Warglaives?
If I was going to do that, I'd be tempted to drop a couple and try and squeeze a Gallant in there with the Bondsman ability that gives those Warglaives 4 rerolls to hit.
I wouldn't, because I don't think that's as important. If I want to be buffing my Warglaives a lot, then I'm going to be doing it with the Warden, because I feel the -1 damage is much more useful.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, I really like the Warden. If I was starting a list, that was... Well, why don't we call this list...
Well, we've got 80 points to spend, Jeff. What are you going to spend them on?
I'm going to probably put an enhancement on the Lancer and buy a unit of Exaction Squad.
I was going to say, yeah, put the enhancement on the Lancer and take some Voidsman at Arms or Exaction Squad.
So we've got 80 points to spend. Minus 35 is 55 left. So we can buy any of the enhancements, really, to put on the
So
Lancer.
which one's going to be best on the Lancer? Unyielding Paragon, reduce all AP by 1? It's a possibility, right?
I don't know why.
Mythic Hero is tasty to just bring an extra armature with it for advance and charge.
For some reason, and I don't know if there's a keyword somewhere or something like that. Ah, yes, there is. You can't put Mythic Hero on a Lancer.
Why not?
Because it's not a Questoris model.
Ah, okay. I didn't realize.
Because I'm looking in the app and I was like, hang on, how come the only enhancements I can put on the Lancer
with a Bondsman? Okay.
I can only put Revered Knight, Mysterious Guardian, and Banner of Macarius. They're the only 3 it allows you to put on the app.
None of which I really want to put on it, to be honest. I mean, I could put Macarius Triumphant on it if I was going to put one on it out of those 3.
I'll put Mysterious Guardian on it just because it'd be a laugh. You thought I was over here, but
it would
actually
be a
I'm over here.
A unit that is designed to charge into range with things and kill them in melee is... Yeah. You're not going to be able to use it. So if I'm going to get some points out of it, I might as well get some actual use out of the bloody thing.
But then Banner and Macarius Triumphant.
You start it sat on an objective and then run it forward.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I think the reason that the banner would be good because you just go for the center field objective. You kill whatever's on the center field objective with your crazy fist and Chank Shock, and then you just charge off the center objective next turn or whatnot.
Yeah,
leaving it in your control. So we take the banner, which costs
less than 55 points.
30 points.
So you've got 50 points left. So you add your Voidsman. You think?
Or Voidsman or Exaction Squad. One of the two. Doesn't really matter because you're not going to spend the literal leftover points from there on anything. So,
no, you're not going to be able to spend them, are you?
Either 5 Voidsman or 5 Exaction Squad. Doesn't matter in the slightest.
So we're giving him the banner of Macarius. We've got 50 points left.
Let's go Exaction Squad because they're cheaper.
Have I spelled that right?
What?
Exaction. Is it like
EXACTION?
Okay. Cool.
Why don't you? Well, strange name, make difference. So they're both just chaff.
Yeah, they're both just chaff.
Neither of them any good.
I was going to say the Exaction Squad.
They'll both serve the same purpose. Frankly, I prefer the Exaction Squad because the upgrades you give it make it a little bit more resilient. Not a lot, but a little bit more resilient than a Voidsman Squad.
Cool. Okay. So that's your list, Mark. We'll call this list the cop-out list.
Go for it. That's fine. It's a straightforward list without many synergies, with a very straightforward charge the motherfuckers, wipe them off the table, and don't really have a lot of subtlety and strategy to it, really.
Perfect. All right. If I'm going to make a Knights list, my thought is, having played Knights and been beaten a lot by Knights, is it the Crusader that still has the battle cannon? The crazy battle cannon with the Rapid fire
Crusader's got all
D6
the
plus
guns.
3. Yes. This gun is...
Crusader has no melee, well, no decent melee profile.
Yeah, the Crusader, I think, is the one that I always wanted to run, like, as a Blood Angels player. Like, you know, if you want to bring some support to the army. And I'll tell you why I like this. And I played against it, and I lost so many Terminators to, like, one round of shooting. The rapid fire battle cannon, getting D3 plus... 3 plus D6 shots, right? So, like, an average of probably, like, 6 shots.
Yep.
But it's rapid fire, and it's 36 inches on that rapid fire. So realistically, you're most of the time, I'd say 80% of the time, 90% of the time, you're getting 2d6 plus 6.
Yep.
So you're getting about 15 shots. Plus it's blast, so add on another 2 potentially if you're shooting a 10-man squad.
Yep.
And these are strength 10, so just going to wound even Terminators on 2s.
-1 AP is a bit crap, though.
But it's the weight of fires. You know, like, you're just telling me it's going to be 15 shots wounding my Terminators on 2s. The -1 AP doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fail. I'm going to roll some 1s. I'm going to roll some 1s and 2s. And every one is a dead Terminator.
So why the Crusader and not the other one that has a battle cannon and a melee weapon?
Well, I mean, we could go there. What's the Crusader's bond ability? While this model is affected by this ability, each time this model makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the hit. So, I mean, that battle cannon will now hit on 2s and wound on 2s.
Yeah, it's great.
If the model remains stationary, you get sustained hit as 1. So I guess every 6 will burst some additional hits as well.
Yep.
And then it's also got a thermal cannon, if I'm correct, right? Or it's got some other crazy gun.
It's got the battle cannon or thermal cannon.
Okay.
And it must have the big Gatling gun.
The Gatling cannon, yes, which is also 18 attacks.
Yep.
Which again, if you stay still, it's going to be hitting on 2s with sustained. Mm-hmm. This will rip infantry. Strength 6 minus 2 damage as well. I played a Blood Angels list into this. I lost my game was over after 1 turn of this thing shooting standing still, honestly. That's how much damage it did to me.
For me, Knights are all about the melee. The melee weapons that they have, the Reaper Chain Fist or the Power Fist, have got the flexibility to do either a huge amount of attacks or the really powerful strikes that will almost always get +2 if you tank shock with them. And if you're wanting to be able to take out anti-armor stuff, then the melee weapons are your most damaging high-strength weapons with which to do so. So, personally, I would not take this because I would always want the ability to have that melee weapon.
Okay. Tony,
this is your list and not mine.
Tony, do you like the Crusader or not really?
I do, because you're making the most out of that towering buff. And we mentioned earlier on about how the towering doesn't really benefit your melee stuff as much as it does your shooty stuff. So going in there with an absolute shit ton of firepower, you're making the most out of that rule in the positive way, because whatever you bring, you've got it in the negative way. But if you bring more guns,
towering, you might as well get the benefit of towering.
Get the benefit out of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because these Knights are very expensive.
Okay,
so I quite like it.
Okay. And because it wants to remain stationary, I assume that's going to be your backfield holder.
Yeah, I mean, or it can hold 1 maybe just outside my deployment zone, and then it's just going to sit there for the whole turn.
And the Hellfriend that it's got a bondsman with could be within 12 inches quite happily. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
I'd be tempted with that enhancement, to make it have 2 Helverins hitting on +1 to hit. So you'd have 2 Helverins hitting on 2s with their quite nice autocannons with all their shots, and him hitting on 2s with all of his shots. That's a hell of a firebase.
See, I found that. Well, I lost the game I played against Knights so badly, but I found basically what Tony's saying so true in that it didn't matter he was only hitting me with -1. He just had so many shots coming out. Each Helverin bringing 8 shots at -1. Again, they're wounding infantry probably on 2s because they're strength 9. They're all 3 damage, so you're talking about dead Terminators from every shot, dead Gravis Marines from every shot. And if they make you make 8 saves on -1, hey, hell, even if you're in cover, you're probably rolling a couple of 1s. Every gun is killing so many models. I don't know. I found the Crusader plus... Let's do what Tony said. Let's give it 2 Helverins.
Fair enough.
I want to pick another big knight, though. So And I think you're right, Mark. The other big knight should be a melee-based knight. I don't think I want to go Lancer. I want to go 50-50.
I wouldn't go Gallant because having the 2 melee weapons feels like a waste to me, and I don't think it's cheap enough.
You don't really get a benefit from it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know if I love the Warden, but the thing I do love about the Warden is his Bondsman ability is great. Yeah. Like, it's so good. So, like, if you took a Warden, then you could take a bunch of Warglavies and you could push centerboard with them. So you've got like your Helverins and your Crusader sitting back, your Warden and your Warglavies pushing forward.
And you were so impressed by the enhancement for give him Armor of Contempt, you want to do that again, right?
I actually think I want to give him the thing that lets him put his Bondsman ability on more than one model if he can do that, because I think the -1 damage is just super useful.
Over putting it on the one to buff your Helverins.
To hit roll, rather than... Yeah, okay. I'm with you on that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so if we take a Warden... I don't have any knights, by the way, so you guys are going to have to lend me all your knights so I can run this.
Yeah, I mean, this exercise, just like with the Blood Angels one we did a few weeks ago, is totally on the basis of assuming you've got access to everything. Whatever you own is not a factor. If you want at the end of it, I'll tell you what my knight list based on shit I actually own is, but we can get to that later if you really want to know.
I don't think I can spell Warglavie. I think I'm spelling it wrong again, but it's fine.
Warglaive.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so you want 2 of them, and what's the... Can I give this one the ability that lets me...
Mythic Hero, yes, it is a Questerous Knight. You can do that.
And how many points is that?
Don't know, you've got the thing.
Okay. 25 points. And that lets me Bondsman ability 2 of my Armigers.
Yep. 2 at a time.
So 2 of them become -1 damage, and my big knight, my big Warden that's running up the center of the battlefield is also -1 damage.
Yep.
I take it I'm taking the Gatling cannon on this guy.
You have no choice. You have to take the Gatling cannon. You can take either the Reaper Chainsword or the Thunderstrike Gauntlet.
Okay. And which one?
You can also pop a
third
gun. Oh, sorry, a third weapon on top of his carapace for free. So you might as well do that.
Yeah.
Personally, I would always go the Reaper Chainsword in this case. I don't think the difference between 14 strength and 20 strength is as valuable to me as having a potential of 12 attacks on the sweep profile.
I was going to say, because most of the time the armor you're coming into is T12 or T13. Yeah. So the extra strength between 14 and 20 is actually it's pointless.
Plus, you'll notice the Reaper Chainsword has 1 better AP than the Fist, which kind of makes up for that. The Gauntlet does more damage, but equally so, you're doing more attacks. So,
And the chainswords on those big knights look fucking scary, to be honest with you.
12 attacks on the chainsword if you need to kill or try and go through hordes of smaller models is much more useful, I feel.
I think you're right. Cool.
The gun you get to put on top is either an Icarus autocannon or an Iron Storm pod or a Storm Spear pod.
I think you probably put on the Storm Spear pod. Right.
I'd actually go for the Iron Storm pod.
Just to kill chaff?
Yeah. Granted, you've got towering and you can see through ruins and stuff. But what if they've got something hidden behind a solid wall that you can't see, and it's an annoying small unit of infantry?
A little bit of indirect. Yeah, okay, I can buy that. Okay, let me add this up so far. I think I feel like I'm just going to pad it out with more armigers, though. Tell me why I didn't like the Moirax.
Its melee weapon has only 1 profile, which is heavily anti-vehicle, which is great for what it does, but I prefer the flexibility of the chain blade that the Warglaive has. And all the guns it's got, they're all very sort of volume of fiery, so meant to deal with loads of little models and infantry rather than taking on armor, which is all well and good, but I feel I've got that sort of aspect of the list covered with everything else I can take in a knight's list.
Okay, so it's got a rubbish Volkite weapon. and by default, and it's got the Graviton Pulsar by default, which is like a D6 shot autocannon.
Which is cool, because it's anti-vehicle too, but it's -1 AP, and that's why I generally don't like grav weapons.
So you can replace the Volkite with a Siege Claw and a Rad Cleanser.
Yep.
Rad Cleanser is basically a flamer with no strength, but it's very good against infantry.
Yep.
The Siege Claw is pretty great in melee, though, right?
It's good against armored vehicles, but like I say, I'd rather have the chain
flexibility.
Warglaive. Yeah.
Okay. And then the Pulsar can be replaced with the Lightning Glock or Conversion Beam. Conversion Beam only gets one attack.
It's got a choice of, 3 or 4 arms, and you can have each arm on each weapon on each arm. You can customize it however you want. So it's really customizable.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Its ability for heroically intervening for 2 CP, for 0 CP if you've already done it, I don't really care about.
I guess that could be cool in some situations, right? I don't think this is too bad. Like, I don't think it's too bad.
But it's also 30 points more than a Warglaive or a Helverin.
All right. Well, this list is at 1550. So we could add 3 more Warglaives for 420.
1 more Big Knight.
I think the Warglaives. I think Warglaives are so good right now, Mark. I'm so tempted to run 3 Warglaives on my Blood Angels list. I just think they're so good. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 3 Warglaives.
So what's in your list at the moment? Because I can't see the...
A Crusader with 2 Halberds, a Warden with 5 Warglaives. I've got 30 points less. Agonizingly 5 points away from
2 Big Knights and 7 Armigers.
I think Armigers win you the games, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah, because they're just everywhere. They're just OC8 on every objective. You just bully the board with them.
Now that taking 3 Big Knights is 3/4 of your points, or there or thereabouts, it's really tough to justify.
I think it goes both ways. I think what Tony said is you either win the game really strongly with 3 Big Knights, or they have enough firepower to drop on every turn and you lose the game. Like, I think it's probably on a, not on a knife's edge, but a bit of a pendulum, really.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's me. I think I'm going to leave it there. Could I add another detachment? And I could add the banner, maybe.
Have you got how many points you got left over?
I've got 30 left.
So you can't afford an extraction squad. You might as well, yeah. Unless you want a cheaper enhancement. Unless you want.
I was going to say, let's throw the banner.
I like Mythic Hero is quite good because that would allow you to give your.
He's already done that one.
Oh, okay.
Let's throw the banner in the Crusader. It means I could move off my home field objective once I've killed all their models.
Yeah.
In
Makes
range
sense.
or something. So that's actually 2,000 points on the nose. Perfect. All right.
Nice.
Have I got the right one now?
You don't have to.
You don't have to. We could spitball about stuff if you want.
All right. Nobody wants to hear
okay,
Tony's
so-
Knights list, so let's just move on. Is that the end then?
So, to be honest, the problem with Knights at the moment is if I was going to write the list that I wanted to write, if that makes sense, like I just want to run it because it's cool, then fuck it, it's 4 Knight Lancers and a Vindicator Assassin.
It's only 3, mate, because you can only have
3 Knight
Lancers.
Lancers and a Gallant. Or something else along those lines. You just bring and you just tank 3 Knight Lancers and Sir Hector. That should just about fit. And I'm going to tank shot you 4 times a turn.
That would be 25 points left over. So you can afford Mythic Hero on none of them.
But if I was actually trying to win with Knights, I wouldn't do that, if that makes sense. So I would love to run that list because it'd be bananas. And it'd be funny as hell to tank shot 4 times a turn.
Yeah.
It would be ridiculous, yes.
But like, if I was going to win, I still think the way to play these, if you actually want to be competitive, is to really leverage towering.
Yeah.
So the list that I would write would be very much
Castellan?
similar. No, yeah, actually. So I'd stick a Knight Castellan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 565 points. He's expensive, but he'll kill more or less anything. To be honest,
he will kill all the things. Yeah, we haven't looked at the Castellan's profile. Should we look at it for 2 seconds?
Yeah, it's probably worth bringing him up, isn't it? Because we haven't talked about him yet.
Go for
it.
What's he got that's exciting?
Well, he's got his big old volcano lance.
Yep. Huge plasma gun.
he's got a huge plasma gun, which is pretty massive.
Yeah, pretty tasty. 2 twin link melter guns, which are basically, well, they're nice, but they're largely irrelevant.
And
you have a choice for what goes on top.
Yeah, you have your siege breaker cannons, which are pretty good, or you can have your missiles. Now, I like the missiles. Anti-Titanic's quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's better. I genuinely don't know what's better. I mean, devastating wounds is hilarious. D6 plus 1 devastating wounds, but you only get the one shot. Does he have 2 of those? Does he count as
he does have 2? He does have 2 siege breakers.
You can either have 2 and a siege break, 2 shield breaker and a siege breaker, or 2 siege breaker and 1 shield breaker.
I think you're better off going with the 2 shield breakers, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think you're going to fight that many knights, but if you do, then that comes in handy. But it just gives you that little bit of extra strength 12 D6 plus 1 damage, and you've got quite a bit of lower strength stuff anyway floating about. And that just gives you, I've got this cocking great big anti-tank monster in the middle of the thing. I like his Iron Aegis ability.
Yeah, he's toughness 13, which is the highest toughness you're generally going to get in the game.
Yep, so las cannons are wounding him on 5s.
Yep, which is why, incidentally, we recommend you bring Lancers for your Blood Angels, because it's strength 14.
Yeah.
Armor just getting cover next to him is quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
And re-rolling damage rolls of 1 against monsters and vehicles. That's going to come in handy for your shield breakers again.
Really bloody useful, yeah.
Is really bloody useful. So the Knight Castellan, he's a bit slow, but he's very tough. He's got a 2-up save. He's got 24 wounds, and he's not actually that many more points than your Crusader.
He would actually be a great target for the... Is it the Mythic Hero that's giving the -1 damage? Sorry, the -1 AP. What's the relic that's giving -1 AP or an enhancement?
I can't remember.
Don't think you can give it to him. Unyielding Paragon, he can't.
Oh, you can.
Sequestrous, yeah.
Yes, okay. That would have been sick on him, actually.
But he's only he's 100 points more than a Crusader, more. And I think he's probably worth it.
See, out of the 2, the Castellan or the Valiant, I'd probably rather take the Valiant.
I think the Valiant's cooler.
I love the idea of walking the Valiant forward and then going in an 18-inch bubble of come near me and I'm going to fucking toast you on Overwatch.
Yeah, he's a massive Overwatch threat. Strength 8, damage 2, AP 1, mega flavor, 3d6 shots. It's awesome. I really do like it, and he forces battle shots.
And the spear gun is batshit crazy.
Funny as hell when it works.
Yeah, and you can give the teleporting enhancement to him. So you just like teleport knight near someone and
then you just laugh your head off. I think he's hilarious. True, he's that good. I just think he's fantastically hilarious because, of course, the harpoon has got anti-monster and anti-vehicle 4+.
Yeah,
and devastating wounds.
Yeah,
and 12 damage.
Yeah.
So that's always funny when that actually comes off.
Yes.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's too much.
24, which is just hilarious. Strength. Is that the highest strength in 40k?
It's not quite, but it's getting there.
I think it might be. I think the twin-linked volcano cannon was also 24 strength.
Yeah, the Warlord Titan guns were fairly tasty, but Warlord
Titan, I think that might be the highest strength that I can think of because the big rail guns are 20. So I think it's probably the highest strength thing. So he's bananas, and I love him for it, but I'm not sure he's that good.
Do you know that?
Fair enough.
Can I just tell you that Miles actually cheated against me when he used this Thundercoil harpoon?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because he hit my Redemptor Dreadnought on a 2-up, and then he rolled a 4 to wound. He was like 12 mortal wounds, that's your Redemptor dead, because he's got 12 wounds. Yeah. Because it's devastating wounds, it should have only been 11 mortal wounds, because devastating wounds get reduced by 1 for the -1 damage.
If you got -1 damage, then yes, that's correct.
So he cheated against me, he killed my Redemptor.
Okay. I'm hearing a lot of call-outs against Miles.
I think Miles just played...
done something to really upset you.
No. I think I'm doing better. That
sort of a challenge.
I was going to say,
here.
Yeah, I don't
Miles,
know.
if you're watching this, you need to be playing John as soon as you can.
I was going to say, yeah.
He's throwing a lot of shade your way, and he doesn't seem to think you won fair and square, mate. So,
the team tournament I won last year had Miles. No, not this year actually. In January, Miles was in my team, so I don't know why I'm giving him a hard time. To be honest.
Anyway,
awesome, and
so
he can take it.
to give a
Yes.
friend to my Knight Castellan,
Yes, what are we giving him as a friend?
a Knight Paladin.
Yes, Paladin. We haven't gone over that one
Paladin's
either.
We haven't
the
gone over
battle
Paladin.
cannon and weapon guy, isn't he?
Yes, so he's a nice balanced knight. He's got a bit of melee to balance out the fact that the other one doesn't. He's got the rapid fire battle cannon, which is, as John said, actually pretty nuts. But I really like his bondsman ability.
I don't.
I really like having that combination of lethal hits and lance. So that means you've got the first time you attack with something near him, they've got a good chance of auto wounding. And if you don't auto wound, you've got a good chance of having bonuses to wound anyway. So that lance on a little knight, Warglaive, means that you're pretty much wounding anything on a 2 that's smaller, or even big stuff, you're still wounding it on a 3 or 4. And I quite like that. That's quite a benefit. And then if you're going to something really big, well, you've got your lethal hits to try and do that with. And the Warglaives have got quite.
I was going to say he adds quite a bit of the reliability to the Warglaives.
He does. So
sure.
if you're using the sweep profile for your Warglaive, then you've got 8 attacks with lethal hits, and if that doesn't do it, you're giving them +1 to wound.
Lance
anyway.
doesn't work on shooting, though, mate.
No, I don't care about the shooting.
All right. Okay. Cool.
I'm talking about melee. That's why I said Warglaive.
Okay. All right.
So that's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think that's quite a nice little combo.
I think
it's a well balanced. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think all the big knights, everyone we've talked about tonight, has been good.
Rerolling a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw on top of the rerolls you get, assuming you're taking that particular knight rule.
It's once per phase as well, not once per turn, once per phase, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
So I think that makes him quite reliable to buff up your Warglaives.
Okay.
Which I quite like. Now, unfortunately, this is where I've run into a problem, because I took the big expensive Castellan, which means that I haven't got enough points for spending lots of points on nice, interesting enhancements. But I have got enough points to bring 6 Warglaives and a Helverin.
Okay.
Originally, I wanted 2 Helverins to play fun with the big Dominus pattern, but I can't fit that in because that puts me 5 points over.
Okay, so this is 2,000 points on the nose, is it?
This is 2,000 points on the nose.
Okay.
6 Warglaives. That's a decent amount of melee and a decent amount of shooting, one of which we can buff up with the benefits from the Paladin.
Yep.
We've got a decent amount of shooting from the Dominus and the Paladin.
And the Helverin.
And the Helverins, because they've all got their... And then you've got the Warglaive shooting, which is that nutty melter gun of doom. It's probably going to struggle a little bit if you run into a full-on horde infantry army, just with a lack of shots.
Yep.
Good sweep a lot on your Warglaives.
Nobody's running a horde infantry army.
No one is, and you could sweep on every single Warglaive, which, if you think they have 8 attacks times 6,
that is kind of the strength of Gene Stealer cults. So you just get to kill them, and they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, absolutely, but they're not going to. Gene Stealer cults are in a funny position at the moment. I don't quite know what to make of them. They're very strong. They've got to change that cult rule, which just means they'll come back, because I'm convinced that one of the only reasons we're not seeing them completely mop up is the fact that nobody's got any Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah, they're a very rare army that not a lot of people own, which is absolutely true. The way to beat them, because they can be beaten and they have been beaten,
absolutely,
is board control. If you take over the board and don't give them any room with which to bring blips back, then you stifle their mechanic. But unfortunately, not many armies can have that much board control. No,
and it certainly isn't knights.
Yeah.
No.
But I think seven armigers is pretty good for board control for a knight's army.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I like it. It's interesting that we've all gone heavy on the armigers.
Well, I think you're right. Like I say, if I wanted to list that was fun, it would be 3 Lancers and a Sir Hector.
Yeah.
But if we're looking for a list that I think will win games, I think you're right. You've got to go heavy on the armigers. And then with your big knights, I think you need to leverage the towering.
They're OC8, they're toughness 10. They can take a punch. They're very good.
Yeah.
Six from your armigers, Mark, and then 7 from me and Tony. But I guess you've got the assassin, which arguably brings a little bit of The assassin definitely is cool, and he is. I guess if you're ever
He's
coming
very
into
worth
these,
80 points.
yeah, if you're coming to like a squad that's led by somebody that doesn't have an invulnerable save, then I think the assassin can just.
Well, it's not just that. For me, the assassin gives a very solid chance of just sniping out the warlord if it's a character attached to a unit.
Very true as well.
Which
yes.
will synergize with the army rule at the start, get me honoured, which will boost my feel no pain from a 6 up to a 5 up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
whereas I have to blow up the whole unit with my Knight Castellan.
Yeah.
Which you can
and the
do.
units next to
it. Yeah.
And all their friends.
You know, when you see that many knights on the table, you know what you need? That ultimate tool? A vortex grenade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Or you need one of the models that I take in my own personal Imperial Knights army.
Which is what?
Knight Proporian?
That's the one.
I don't know that one. Tell me why it's good.
Because it's expensive as fuck and has got 4 of the biggest and baddest guns in the game.
There it is.
700 points. 745 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has
Toughness 13.
It has 2 twin Magnalas cannons.
I never even heard that before. Twin Magnalas cannons.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know those guns that you've got on your big super heavy tank?
Yes, the Falchion.
Yeah. It's got one of those, because that's two barrels, yeah?
Yeah.
It's got one of those on each arm.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's got the firepower of 2 Falcons. Which is
that'll
like
do
745 points.
That'll do some damage.
Yeah.
It's got better feet than the other ones as well for some reason.
It's bigger. It's a lot bigger. It's about as large physically as a Warhound Titan.
It's not much smaller. It is a little bit smaller, but it's not much smaller.
And then, just for good measure, it's got how many las cannons as well?
Either 2 las cannons or 2 auto cannons, or mix and match them. And 1 rocket pod on top, which is either the Helios rocket pod or the Ironstorm rocket pod.
Nice indirect fire. 12 shots, give or take. I think you probably take the indirect fire in this over the other one, because if you can see them, you can kill them. I
completely agree.
Yeah.
Every time.
Nice.
I was a bit upset when they changed the points for the Knights, because they put the Knight Lancer up by way too much.
Yeah, this was...
It should have been 450 points for the Knight Lancer, because if it was 450 points, which is, let's remind ourselves, the same as the Atropos, it's slightly more than the Atropos is. It's still significantly more than a Gallant. It's same as a Paladin. It's more than a Preceptor. It's a reasonable amount of points, not 495. Because by making it 495, they broke the perfect list.
Here we go again.
The thing is, these point changes are going to these point changes were done
on a
whim,
but it broke the perfect list.
This perfect list has been in. This is now the 3rd episode of 3 Grots in which the perfect list has been whinged about. So go on, complain about it again for the 3rd time.
Well, you can't do it anymore.
On Chris's behalf.
On Chris's behalf, yeah. On Casper on the chat, because he was so excited about this and he's so upset about it that it almost ruined him for the hobby forever. Because you could run pre-points increase 2 Knight Lancers and a Warhound Titan for 2,000 points.
I see.
Which
and
would mean that
perfect list.
Which you only got 3 models in it, and you can tank shock 3 times.
You can't hold any objectives though, but I mean,
who gives a shit?
You just kill everything. Okay.
Whereas now you can only run 1 Knight Lancer, your Warhound Titan, and you've got to run another unit.
It's a hard life, isn't it?
It's a hard life. You can fit for that. You can run a Gallant, a Lancer, and a Warhound Titan, but only 2 of them can tank shot.
Well, can you do
Meatloaf? I was going to say.
How many points? No, it's too expensive.
Didn't Meatloaf say 2 out of 3 ain't bad?
Canis is 490 points. Canis is 5 points less than the Lancer.
Yeah, I don't get that, to be honest.
And he's just flat better than a Lancer.
I was going to say they didn't have enough data to make these points changes when they made them. I'm just throwing that out there.
They took. We're going to have this multiplier, and we're going to give this multiplier to everything we think should have it because it's got towering and shoot stuff.
Because I got completely decimated by Miles' Eldar list. Again, Miles. Apparently Miles just plays the armies that beat me. I got completely decimated by his list. Like, it wasn't even funny. Like, 80 victory points to 30 or something. And they did those Eldar point changes, and he goes, my list went up 20 points. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, nothing. Like, everything I was running was the same cost. Because he wasn't running the Wraith Blades or whatever.
Well, they did nerf a couple of other things in his Eldar list as well that wasn't just points.
So the fate dice.
Obviously got a fairly large points buff, which it wasn't necessarily using because Wraith Knight, because it's got tearing. But the fate dice nerf,
Yeah, the fate dice. Sisters of Battle's miracle dice are really. Have you guys played Sisters yet? In
I haven't yet in 10th.
Oh, have you seen? They're awful. They're one of the worst armies in the game. They're sub 40% win rate, John. There were some Blood Angels.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're probably playing a lot of the stuff that they run last edition that wasn't good. If they run a bunch of tanks, they're really strong.
Yeah, but their tanks aren't outrageously good.
But that's the thing. I think people are struggling to understand, and I've given up trying to understand. I'm just like, right, my Blood Angels list now is fucking 10 tanks. You know, like. Yeah. I win games because I have 10 tanks, and people like Colin literally messaged me tonight, and he's like, "Is there any Blood Angels in your Blood Angels list?" I was like, "Yes, I have a Death Company Dreadnought, and I have one squad of Death Company. How dare you make that assumption?" and he replied and said something like, just embrace Ultramarines and put Gilliman in that list. It'd be better. I was like, no, not doing it.
Next time I run a Blood Angels list, I'm going to run a Sons of Sanguinius detachment. It's going to have 3 Brutalis, 3 Death Company Dreadnoughts, and 3 Warglaives in it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Oh, 3 Warglaives now. Okay, so it's going full melee Dreadnought power.
Let's just,
Nice.
Do it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting well off topic now. This has only been a mini episode, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. Has it been relatively mini? Yeah, it's been relatively mini.
We're an hour and a half in. We haven't got any piles of glory.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
I've got no piles of glory because I'm not doing anything marine related whatsoever until the fucking codex comes out after GW decided that half
I've started painting my Leviathan.
But we're not going to tell you what you're going to get to play with instead. So screw that until we know what's going on with the codex.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for watching this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you some thoughts on writing your first night list. Yeah. What you can do...
Tell us exactly where we're wrong. And what knights list you would build and why? What's the most powerful thing? What the most powerful combos are?
Tell us why actually really is 3 Knight Lancers and Canis Rex.
Tell us why the Morax is the most overpowered piece of shit going, and why I'm wrong again writing that thing off.
Yeah.
And remember, down below our video, there's a nice join button. You can become a member of our channel, or there is a link to our Patreon.
Yeah,
in the video description, and we do super appreciate that. Thank you to everybody
that
does that.
The value of a coffee or 2 every month, and just to support things that we do and keep us going, and keeping you in amusing content where we don't talk about people's flies in ears, or we do talk about when it's relevant. Thankfully, that's not happened in the last 2 weeks. Or beers, whatever beer Tony's drinking this week. Then consider doing so. It's really helpful.
IKEA beer gets a thumbs up. That's all right for a lager.
I was going to say, we need to do a beer tier list with you now, don't we? We'll buy you all the beers, do a tier list. Maybe we need to buy beers for everybody. I like this idea more now. If we all get beers, then we make a tier list in live, real time, opening all these beers.
I think it's against the terms of service for us to record a live tier list of the beers in Bugman's. So we might not be able to do that on Warhammer World's site. We might have to work something else out.
We'll stand in the car park and do it.
That is definitely illegal, but
how could that go wrong?
Yeah. That's private property. Right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Good night.